everybody. We have finished the book of Revelation, which is the last book in the Bible. But we're not done, because when I started the Sunday school videos, we started when the Israelites were in the wilderness, because that was where we had ended in Sunday school before COVID. So now we're going back to the beginning of the Bible, and we're going to start in the beginning. So, in the beginning, what was there in the beginning? Well, all we know is what the Bible says. The first verse in the Bible says, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void or empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water." So we know there was darkness, and there wasn't much shape. It was empty, and there was water. That's all we know. We do know, the Bible tells us, that the Lord is the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. We know that God is forever. We are not forever. We're going to find where our beginnings came from. But God is forever. We know that from His Word. So we aren't sure what happened before this, but we do know that at some point in forever, God decided to make the world. And there was darkness, and there was emptiness, and there was water. And then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And He divided the light from the darkness, and the light He called day, and the darkness He called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. So out of forever, out of eternity, where there was no time being kept, all of a sudden, God created light. And that was the beginning of what we know of creation. Now, historians try to guess, based on the Bible, the genealogies in the Bible, the history of the Bible, and what we do know since people started keeping track of time and things like that. And we suppose that this beginning, where God said, "Let there be light," was approximately 6,000 years ago. So we base that on what the Bible says, not on anything else. That the beginning was about 6,000 years ago, when God said, "Let there be light." God made it out of nothing. He just said the words, and there it was, light. And everything God does is good, so He saw that it was good, and He was pleased with it. That was the beginning. Light was the first thing. Well, it wouldn't be very nice if we didn't have light, because then we couldn't see all the other beautiful things that God made. So then, because there was light, there was day and night that was separated from each other. There was a morning, there was a second day. And on the second day, God made an atmosphere. He made a sky around the earth. He divided that water. We know there was water somehow. And the Bible says that He divided the water so that there was a firmament, He calls it. We call it atmosphere or sky, the air that we breathe. So there was water on the earth, covering the earth, and then there was the air, and then there was space, okay, outer space. So that was all divided on the second day. And once again, God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And that was number 2. So number 1 was light. Number 2 was sky. Number 3 was a busy day. On day number 3, God made the dry land appear. So the earth had been covered with water, and then He moved the water and made dry land come up, and dry land appeared on the earth. So this would be the continents, and it is possible very possible back then that the structure of the continents was different than it is now, because you'll find out later that there was a catastrophe on the earth that may have changed the formation of this dry land. But in any event, dry land appeared. So there was water separated from the dry land. Do you notice these separations? The light was separated from the darkness. The water was separated from the sky. Now we have dry land separated from the water. And the water God called seas. But that wasn't all he did on day 3. As you can see in the picture, God also made all the plants. So everything from the blades of grass to the tall trees to the beautiful, beautiful flowers and all the different colors all over the earth. He made the fruits to grow. All the fruits, you know, raspberries and strawberries and blackberries, apples, oranges, pears, bananas, pineapples, papayas, and mangoes. All those yummy fruits that we get to eat were made on day 3. And there was something pretty awesome about that, because when God made those fruits, he put seeds in them so that when people were done eating them, or animals were done eating them, and that core or seed was left, they'd throw it on the ground and it would go down into the ground and it would make a new plant to make more fruit. And God intended for this to happen. He wanted the things he created to keep on going, to make new ones and new ones. He wanted to fill the earth with all the beautiful things that he created. So there was seeds and grass and trees and flowers and fruits, and they would multiply or reproduce after their kind, make new ones to go on and on. And why did he do this? He made it for his pleasure. If you look around in creation, if you go outside and look around just in the small place where you live, you can see beautiful things. Just the blue sky and the puffy white clouds and the trees, the green leaves and the white trunks and the dark trunks and all the shades of color and the beautiful flowers. It is beautiful, the things that he made, and God saw that. He saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the 3rd day. So day 1 was light, and day 2 was sky, and day 3 was dry land and plants. Now day 4 kind of goes maybe not in the sequential order you may have expected. On day 4, God made the sun and the moon, and he made the stars also. He wanted there to be a light for the day and a light for the night, and for them to be different things separated like everything else, to give light to the earth and to divide the light from the darkness. One was to rule the day, he said, and one was to rule the night. Another purpose for the sun and the moon and the stars, God says, was to keep track of time. When you have eternity, when you have forever, then you don't have time. But he made these so that we could keep track of time. So that was a wonderful thing. We can measure the time and the seasons. We have summer and winter and fall and spring in different places in the world. Those look like different things. But we all, everywhere in the world, have time and seasons. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day. Well, now we know so much more about space than we used to. With the huge telescopes and everything, that we realize that when he created the stars also, that was enormous and amazing. And people didn't even know, because they couldn't see that far, but God could see it and see the beauty of what he created. So then we had day 5. And on day 5, God decided to fill the waters of the seas, of the oceans, with living creatures. So this is the first time he made anything like this. Up to this point, the living things he made were just plants. But on day 5, he created living creatures. He made all different kinds of living creatures. You know many of the things that live in the ocean. And did you know there's things that live in the ocean that we don't even know about yet? He made things that live so far down in the ocean, miles and miles down under the surface of the water, that it's pitch black. And we don't know all of the things that live down there, but we know there's some pretty amazing things. I'm sure you've seen pictures of fish that have their own lights that attract other fish and organisms to them so that they can eat them. Although back then, fish didn't eat other fish. God said that he gave the plants of the earth as food for all the living creatures. So back then they would have been eating the plants that lived in the ocean and not other fish. But he created all the amazing things, whales and the beautiful fish of all the different colors, and sharks, and maybe megalodons, and huge, enormous things that don't even exist anymore were created on this day, day 5. What else did he make on day 5? Well, as you can see from the picture, he made all the things that live and fly in the sky. So the birds and things were all made on day 5. The air was filled with living flying creatures, beautiful colored birds. And God said he created them with the words of his mouth. He just said, let there be these fish and birds and different creatures, and there they were. And he said, multiply and fill the earth. He wanted them, he gave them the capacity to make new ones of themselves. Little babies that look just like the mothers and fathers. And so a pelican would make a baby pelican and not a parakeet. And a sparrow would make a baby sparrow and not a parrot. They were going to multiply and reproduce after their own kind. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the 5th day. Wow, he wasn't done yet. And day 6 was the busiest of all. So on day 6, God said, let there be animals on the earth, creatures of all kinds that would walk on 2 legs or 4 legs or more. As you can see in the picture, this is just a small rendition of the many kinds of animals that live on our earth. And these were all created on day 6. And again, God told them to reproduce. He gave them the ability to make babies that would grow up and fill the earth with animals of all different types, but a sheep gives birth to a sheep, not a rhinoceros. And an elephant has a baby elephant and not a baby giraffe. And so they were all going to reproduce after their kind. And God saw that it was good. But he wasn't done yet. God decided to make a man. He said, I'm going to make a man in my image, in God's likeness. And he wanted man to rule over this beautiful earth that he had created. All the animals and plants and everything that God created, man was made to rule over them and to take care of them. And with the animals, God just spoke the words and they came into existence. They just were there. But with man, he was special. God made him with his own hands. He bent down into the dust or dirt of the ground and he formed man, maybe like a statue. And then he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. He breathed into that dirt man God's breath, and Adam came to life. He became a living soul. He didn't just have a body, he had a soul on the inside of his body so that he could commune with God. He could understand God and talk to God and worship God and be God's friend and rule the earth the way God had intended. God wanted man to love and enjoy him. And God made a woman too, because with all the animals, he made males and females so that they could reproduce and have babies. And he wanted man also to reproduce and fill the earth, and so he made a woman as well. Another purpose for which God made a woman to be with Adam is that he didn't want Adam to be lonely. He wanted him to have another person to talk to, because I'm sure a lion would make a great companion. You could pet his mane and you could maybe teach it to play fetch or something, but you couldn't have a heart-to-heart conversation with a lion. And so God made a woman to be a friend for Adam, to talk to and share his life with, and also to make more little humans so that they could live in the earth and enjoy God together. So we know that Adam and Eve were not created to die, and we'll find out more about that later. But we know that now humans do die, but we know that the soul that God put into humans does not die. It will live forever. And so the body that we live in is just kind of like a house, a temporary place for our soul to live. And when we are done with this life and this body, we'll get a new body. But where will we be? We need to make sure that we know where we will go, where our soul will spend eternity, because God made us with eternity in our hearts. He made us to live forever like him. And so we need to make sure that we are going to live in the right place. And how do we do that? Well, we know that we need to accept the gift of salvation that Jesus provided for us so that we can be saved and have a home in heaven and live forever with God. But back then, back when God created the beautiful world and Adam and Eve, they were created without sin, and they had the ability to live forever then. So God created man in his image and woman, and he made them male and female, and he blessed them, and he said, be fruitful and multiply. He wanted them to have children and more children, and then their children to have children, so that they would fill the earth. Because remember, the earth had been empty. And so he wanted people and animals to fill the earth. And he gave plants and fruits for all of his creation to eat. They didn't eat any meat. They only ate plants and fruits, all of them, even the lion. And God saw everything that he had made, and it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So that was the end of the creation that God made, and he was pleased with it. So all of creation was completed, and God was satisfied. And on the seventh day, God rested from the work that he had done, and he blessed the seventh day and said that it was holy. And he wanted Adam and Eve to rest on the seventh day as well, because he rested. So let's go over what happened on those days. Sometimes it's hard to keep it all straight. So we have 7 days, okay? So on the first day, we have light. God said, let there be light. On the second day, we have the sky. God made the sky, separated it from the water. On the third day, God made the dry land appear and plants all over the earth. And on the fourth day, he went up to space, and he made, well, he didn't literally go up to space, but he made the sun and the moon and the stars on the fourth day. So we have light, sky, dry land and plants, sun, moon, and stars. And then on the fifth day, he filled the sky and the seas with birds and fish and things like that. And on the sixth day, the big day, he made all the animals on the earth, and he made man and woman too. So that was the 6th day. And then the 7th day, the last day of the week, God rested. And time began, and it started counting down, and it's still counting down. So I hope that you understood and enjoyed this lesson, and we will see you next week.